They were here before our prayers, before our temples, before our gods. In the silence of caves, in the smoke of firelight, people felt them watching and gave them names they dared not speak aloud. These beings did not vanish. They followed us through empires, through churches, through cities, changing shape, but never their hunger. Tonight, we open the oldest, dustiest doors of all, the study of demons. This is Demonology, a map of shadows, a catalog of the unholy, a history written in whispers and blood. And every name we speak pulls something a little closer from the dark.
We have opened the doors. Now we must understand what lies beyond them. Demonology is more than a list of monsters. It is the attempt to study and catalog everything humanity has ever called a demon. A science of shadows, built from thousands of years of fear, faith, and fascination. Where theology tried to describe the divine, demonology tried to describe the things that lurk outside the divine, the disruptive, the dangerous, the other. Every culture has given names to its unseen forces: the Mesopotamian Lamashtu and Pazuzu, the Greek daemons, the Arabian Jinn, the Hindu Rakshasas, the medieval Succubi. Each of these beings is born from a local landscape, a local religion, a local nightmare. Yet when scribes, priests, and magicians began to write them down, patterns emerged. Demonology is the act of recognizing those patterns, recording them, and, if possible, controlling them. It arises from a very human impulse to take the chaos of the unknown and order it with words. People catalog plants and stars to understand them. They catalog demons for the same reason. The old exorcists and magi believed that to name a thing was to hold power over it. By writing a demon's name on parchment, by drawing its seal inside a circle, by placing it within a hierarchy, they hoped to confine something vast and formless into something manageable. Yet not every dark being fits neatly into the word demon. In ancient Greece, a daemon was simply a spirit, sometimes helpful, sometimes harmful. Many beings we call demons today were once gods of rival faiths, downgraded by new religions to evil spirits. Others are tricksters, foxes, fairies, jinn, who straddle the line between mischief and malice. And still others are the fallen angels of monotheistic traditions, not spirits of nature, but rebels from heaven itself. Demonology tries to draw a map of all these categories, but its borders are always shifting. Think of it this way. Demons, in the narrow sense, are malevolent, parasitic, destructive. Spirits may be neutral or protective. Fallen gods are dethroned deities, recast as devils. Tricksters are ambiguous forces, neither good nor evil, but dangerous if ignored. Demonology is the study of how those threads interweave across cultures. It is also a mirror. The hierarchies of hell often resemble the hierarchies of human courts. The sins assigned to demons reflect the sins we fear in ourselves. When a culture changes, its demons change with it. To study demonology is to hold a candle to the oldest corners of the human mind and to watch the shadows it casts grow taller. From this foundation, the video can then move into its next chapters, how the earliest civilizations named their demons, and how that practice evolved into grimoires, hierarchies, and the infernal maps we still recognize today.
As humans stepped from caves into the cradle of civilization, Their world expanded, and so too did the shadows that haunted it. Long before temples rose from mud brick, before kings claimed divine right, there were forces that defied understanding. The first demons were born not from myth alone, but from necessity. Explanations for disease, death, storms, and the unknown. In the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates, scribes began to record a terrifying taxonomy of the unseen. Lamashtu, a she-demon of night, prowled households to harm infants. Her eyes glowed with malevolence. Her claws tore at the fragile veil between life and death. Against her prowled Pazuzu, the winged king of demons, fierce and cunning. Though feared, Pazuzu was paradoxically invoked to protect mothers and children from Lamashtu's wrath, an early lesson in the duality of demonic forces. The Mesopotamians, ever practical, did not leave their fate to prayer alone. Amulets carved from stone, bronze, or clay bore the likenesses of these spirits. Tiny figures of Pazuzu, inscribed with protective incantations, were hung above cradles. The same hands that feared the demon's teeth also sought to harness its power, turning terror into a shield. Here, in the earliest written records, we see the first flicker of human ambition to control the uncontrollable. The catalog of evil did not stop at Mesopotamia. Lilitu, whispered of in fragmented cuneiform, was a shadowy figure of night and seduction, later echoing through cultures as Lilith. She haunted dreams, threatening life and fertility, embodying the primal fear of the unknown female spirit. To confront her, incantations were memorized, clay figurines were broken, and ritual offerings were made. Here the seed of exorcism was planted, the first recorded attempts to negotiate with, repel, or contain the immaterial. Across deserts and along riverbanks, the Egyptians faced their own spiritual wilderness. Desert spirits, born of barren sands and scorching winds, were feared as much as they were revered. These beings, from the canine-headed demons guarding tombs to the silent, lurking denizens of the underworld, inhabited the boundary between the living and the dead. They were not always evil. Some served as guides for the soul through Duat, the land of the dead. Yet every interaction carried risk, a reminder that spirits, like shadows, could shift with intention and circumstance.
In these early civilizations, the line between divinity, demon, and spirit was porous. Protective amulets, magical texts, and exorcistic rituals reveal a world both awed and terrified by the unseen. A child fell ill, and it might be the hand of a demon or the displeasure of a minor god. Storms destroyed crops, and the wind itself could be a wrathful spirit. Humans cataloged, named, and depicted these forces because, in naming them, they sought dominion. It was an age of patterns, of early demonology taking shape. Wings, claws, hybrid forms, nightwalkers and disease-bringers, spirits of chaos and guardians alike. The first scribes began to see connections, to place beings in hierarchies, and to link their actions to the moral and physical order of the cosmos. From the Mesopotamian cities to the sands of Egypt, humanity's first maps of the Infernal were drawn. Lines between fear and protection, chaos and order, life and death. And so, when we speak of demons today, of infernal hierarchies and grimoires, remember that the blueprint was written thousands of years ago, in mud and ink, by hands trembling in the half-light of human understanding. The first demons were not just monsters. They were mirrors, reflecting the hopes, fears, and fragile power of those who named them.
As human civilizations flourished, their gods and spirits multiplied. and so too did the shadows that walked alongside them. In Greece, the word daimon described a force, neither wholly good nor wholly evil. These spirits were intermediaries, guiding humans, inspiring poets, or punishing hubris. They were natural, neutral, elemental, a presence that reminded mortals of their smallness in a vast, unpredictable world. But neutrality, like everything in the human imagination, could be fragile. As empires expanded, so did the reach of new religions. The Christianization of Europe transformed the landscape of belief, redrawing moral lines and reassigning the nature of the unseen. Where once a spirit might have been a guardian or a trickster, now it was recast as an adversary of God. The neutral daimon became a demon, a malevolent force, a tempter, an enemy of salvation. The ambiguity of pagan spirits was replaced by the rigid dualism of heaven and hell.
The transformation was not confined to Greece. Across the Roman Empire, gods and spirits of conquered peoples were demonized, cast into shadow as their worshippers were converted. Celtic gods, once revered in the misty forests of northern Europe, became witches, warlocks, and evil spirits in Christian eyes. Norse beings, the mighty Jotun, the cunning Loki, were reframed as malevolent forces opposed to the divine order of the new faith. This was syncretism in action, a negotiation of power, belief, and survival. By turning rival gods into demons, Christianity not only reinforced its authority, it also incorporated the old myths into a new moral universe. Festivals, sacred sites, and rituals were often repurposed, sanitized, or condemned, and the beings that once roamed freely in human imagination were confined to the margins, to the shadows, to the realm of sin and temptation. The line between demon and deity became a matter of perspective, of power, and of fear. A god to one people could be a demon to another. A protector could become a predator. The very act of cataloging and naming these forces, the earliest step toward demonology, was deeply intertwined with the politics of belief and conquest.
Through this process, demonology expanded from a record of local fears into a moral map, a guide to understanding the unseen world in terms of sin and salvation. Pagan spirits, once chaotic and ambivalent, were now cast in moral terms: tempters, corruptors, bringers of misfortune. Legends were reinterpreted, oral traditions rewritten, and the histories of entire peoples were recast in shadow. It was a transformation both cultural and psychological. The forces that had once embodied the unpredictability of nature, the mystery of life, and the ambiguity of fate now reflected humanity's struggle with morality, obedience, and divine order. Every demon, every fallen spirit became a story of rebellion, danger, and temptation, a warning, a lesson, and a fascination rolled into one. And so, as we look back, we see that the devils of Christian Europe were not born from nothing. They were forged from the very spirits that had guided, inspired, and challenged human civilizations for centuries. Pagan ambiguity gave way to infernal clarity, a dualistic shadow cast across the world, mapping sin, fear, and the unknown.
As centuries passed, humanity's fascination with demons evolved from fearful naming to meticulous documentation. The Middle Ages and Renaissance were the age of grimoires.
arcane manuals that promised knowledge, control, and power over the infernal. Among the most infamous were the Lesser Key of Solomon and Johann Weyer's Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum. These were not simple collections of stories. They were codified hierarchies, catalogs of names, powers, and the precise methods to summon or repel these beings. Grimoires presented demons almost as bureaucrats of the underworld. Each had a rank, a title, and specific duties. Kings, dukes, princes, marquises, titles lifted straight from earthly courts. It was as if human hierarchies were projected onto hell itself. To the medieval magician, to know a demon's name, rank, and specialty was to wield a key to unseen power. To summon one without respect for the hierarchy was perilous. The risk of deception, possession, or curse was ever present. These texts were simultaneously scholarly, spiritual, and terrifying. Their pages were dense with lists, rituals, and warnings, showing that by the late Middle Ages, demonology had become not merely folklore, but a disciplined study, a science of shadows, where knowledge was both armor and temptation.
Among the most enduring legacies of these grimoires was the legendary list of the 72 spirits of Solomon. According to myth, King Solomon, wielding divine authority, bound these entities to do his bidding, not with brute force, but with wisdom, ritual, and sacred knowledge. Each spirit was assigned a precise role, governing aspects of the material and spiritual world. Some granted knowledge, others power, and still others induced misfortune or fear. The ranking system mirrored the human obsession with order. Kings presided over dukes, marquises commanded lesser spirits, and each spirit's abilities were catalogued with precision. To the magician, to call upon a duke was different from invoking a king. To summon a marquis required adherence to exact ritual and timing. Each spirit had a seal, a signature, a symbol that represented its essence, and through this sigil the practitioner could bind the entity to the circle, to the law of the ritual, and ultimately to their command. Here, the bureaucratic metaphor becomes literal. Hell was envisioned as a mirror of human administration, rigid, hierarchical, and inexorably ordered. To master the 72 spirits was to glimpse the architecture of evil itself, to walk a line between reverence and hubris, and to glimpse the shadowy reflections of human ambition projected onto the infernal plane.
Central to this infernal bureaucracy were the symbols, seals, and sigils that made interaction with demons possible. A sigil was more than a drawing. It was a language of power, a signature of essence, a key to binding or commanding an entity. Magicians believed that by inscribing a seal in the proper circle, at the correct time, and with the correct incantation, they could compel obedience from the otherwise uncontrollable. The act of sealing a demon was as psychological as it was ritualistic. The magician created a microcosm, a sacred space where chaos could be contained, where a powerful being could be compelled to act according to human will. The circle, the triangle, the inscriptions of names, each element reinforced authority, precision, and protection. Mistakes were dangerous. Errors could unleash fury, possession, or misfortune. Grimoires detailed these methods with painstaking accuracy, showing the careful balance between respect and control. These symbols were not merely artistic. They were the codification of a system that transformed terror into manageable, knowable forces. Through hierarchies, ranks, and seals, humans sought to impose order upon the chaos of the unseen, reflecting once again a deep human impulse to understand, to categorize, and, if possible, to rule over the darkness itself.
Across continents and oceans, demons took on forms as varied as the landscapes that birthed them. In Japan, the Oni, hulking horned fiends with crimson skin and jagged claws, were feared as harbingers of plague, famine, and misfortune. Yet some Oni also served as agents of punishment, enforcing cosmic justice on those who transgressed societal norms. The Jorōgumo, the infamous spider woman, lured victims into webs of illusion and desire, a reminder that seduction and death were often intertwined in the realm of the uncanny. In India, the forests and mountains were home to Rakshasas, shape-shifting predators who devoured the unwary and challenged heroes in epic tales. They were not merely evil, they embodied chaos and the untamed aspects of nature, reflecting humanity's fear of what lies beyond civilization's borders. The godlike yet terrifying Bhairavas patrolled sacred spaces, enforcers of divine law, reminding mortals that protection and terror were often two sides of the same coin. Africa, too, offered a rich tapestry of spirits, ancestral, malevolent, and in between. From the forest spirits of Central Africa to the desert wanderers of North Africa, these beings were interwoven with daily life, capable of blessing crops, punishing wrongdoers, or causing inexplicable illness. Arabian tradition added another layer with the Jinn, spirits born of smokeless fire, inhabiting deserts, ruins, and human hearts alike. They could be mischievous or deadly, bound or free, reflecting the volatile power of nature and the unseen. Despite the vast distances separating these cultures, a remarkable pattern emerges. Demons, across time and place, often fit into archetypal roles. Some were predators, stalking humans with hunger or malice, like Lamashtu or the Jorōgumo. Others were corruptors, tempting mortals into sin, deceit, or folly, echoing the Succubi, Incubi, Rakshasas. Tricksters abounded, fox spirits in Japan, fairies in Europe, and jinn in Arabia, beings neither wholly evil nor good, who disrupted order, forced reflection, and challenged assumptions. Yet some demons were paradoxically bringers of wisdom. In African and Asian folklore alike, contact with a spirit could grant insight, magical skill, or knowledge of hidden truths, but always at a cost. In this way, the archetypes became moral and psychological mirrors. The predator warned of danger, the corrupter of ethical failure, the trickster of hubris, and the wise demon of the price of knowledge. Each culture expressed the human fascination with forces beyond comprehension, and yet, through these archetypes, we find a universal vocabulary of fear and instruction. Perhaps most intriguingly, the night itself became the natural home of demons across all civilizations. Darkness, with its uncertainty and danger, is a universal trigger for fear. Night demons emerged in every culture as embodiments of what cannot be seen, controlled, or predicted. The Jinn prowled the Arabian deserts under moonlight. Oni haunted Japanese villages at night. Lamashtu struck infants while parents slept. Across the world, night demons represented the vulnerabilities of humanity, the body at rest, the mind unguarded, and the soul exposed. Psychologists and anthropologists alike note that these nocturnal entities tap into universal fears of predators, the unknown, and death itself. Dreams became the bridge between worlds. Sleep became a liminal space where demons could manifest, and societies created rituals, wards, and prayers to protect against nocturnal threats. The night demon is thus both a mirror and a warning, a reminder that human imagination, fear, and survival instincts are intertwined, producing myths that span every corner of the globe.
As civilizations matured, humans moved from observation and cataloging of demons to direct interaction, sometimes out of desperation, sometimes out of curiosity. Across Mesopotamia, priests performed rituals to protect the sick, the pregnant, and the vulnerable, invoking protective spirits to ward off harmful entities. Clay tablets, incantations, and early exorcisms were the tools of those who dared confront the unseen, a mixture of religion, magic, and pragmatism. This practice evolved alongside religion. In the medieval Christian world, possession became both a spiritual and moral crisis. Priests, monks, and specially trained exorcists were called upon to confront entities believed to invade the human body or soul. Holy water, sacred words, and ritualized prayers formed the arsenal against demonic influence. The Vatican itself codified the rites of exorcism, recognizing the enduring threat these beings posed and the equally enduring human need to confront what cannot be seen. Across centuries and cultures, one truth remained. To encounter a demon was to confront both fear and power, to touch the liminal boundary between life and the unknown.
Among the most intimate and terrifying interactions were those of demons with human desire. The legends of Succubi and Incubi, female and male entities who seduced or assaulted mortals in dreams, reflect deep anxieties about sexuality, morality, and the unknown forces that might shape lineage. From these encounters came the myth of the Cambion, a hybrid offspring born of demon and human union. Cambions were said to inherit the power, cunning, or malevolence of their demonic parent, embodying the ultimate fear that the line between the human and the supernatural could be breached. Societies across Europe and the Near East told stories of these children, blending cautionary tales, moral instruction, and folklore. The anxieties surrounding succubi, incubi, and cambions reveal a culture attempting to control not only physical acts, but also the unseen consequences of human desire, imagination, and vulnerability.
The fear of demonic influence took another form in the pact with the devil. From the medieval period onward, the idea that a human could exchange their soul for power, knowledge, or wealth became a central theme in demonology. Such pacts were both fascination and warning, a demonstration of ambition's potential to lead one into shadow. Alchemists, magicians, and heretics were rumored to have negotiated with infernal powers, their names whispered in fear across towns and courts. This fear erupted into the witch trials of Europe and colonial America. Men and women were accused of consorting with demons, making pacts, or causing harm through infernal means. Confessions, often extracted under torture, detailed meetings with spirits, knowledge of curses and dark rituals, blending imagination, coercion, and genuine belief. Demonology, in this context, was not only a study of entities, but also a study of human psychology, morality, and society's boundaries. The interactions between humans and demons reveal an eternal truth.
Our fears of the unseen often mirror our anxieties about power, sin, and the unknown consequences of our actions.
As human culture sought to understand the forces of evil, they began to imagine a final reckoning, an apocalypse where demons would no longer lurk in shadows but march openly against humanity. Central to this vision was the figure of the Antichrist, a being of ultimate deception and malice, often described as a human vessel of demonic power, capable of swaying nations and corrupting souls. In apocalyptic prophecies, the Antichrist was rarely alone. He led infernal armies, legions of fallen angels, restless spirits, and demonic entities summoned from the darkest corners of creation. These armies were described in vivid, terrifying detail, a storm of teeth, claws, fire, and shadow, overwhelming the forces of humans and angels alike. The imagery of apocalypse served as both warning and moral lesson, a cosmic battle between order and chaos, light and shadow, human virtue and demonic temptation. Through such narratives, demonology transcended superstition and folklore, becoming a tool to frame human history as a prelude to an inevitable confrontation with ultimate evil.
The study of demons profoundly shaped humanity's visions of the afterlife and cosmic justice. Medieval and Renaissance theologians, artists, and writers drew upon demonology to populate hell with creatures that reflected the sins and fears of mortals. The hierarchy of devils, the punishments assigned to each, and the landscapes of fire, darkness, and torment all stemmed from centuries of cataloging the infernal. Judgment Day was imagined not merely as a moment of divine reckoning, but as the unveiling of the infernal bureaucracy, where demons executed their roles with precision, meting out punishment according to their rank and specialty. Each soul was subject to the moral order encoded by generations of demonologists. Deceit punished by tempters, lust confronted by succubi, pride opposed by demons of arrogance. In this way, demonology became a lens through which humanity projected its understanding of sin, justice, and fear, ensuring that visions of hell were never abstract but vivid, terrifying, and morally instructive.
As demonology advanced, so too did the desire to record and wield its knowledge. Across centuries and continents, practitioners compiled grimoires, arcane manuals that contained rituals, invocations, and the secrets of spirits both benevolent and malevolent. The Lemegeton, the Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, and countless other European texts laid out precise instructions, the names of demons, their ranks, their powers, and the exact procedures to summon or bind them. Beyond Europe, ancient Egypt and the Islamic world produced their own repositories of occult knowledge. Magical papyri from Egypt, often inscribed on papyrus and buried with the dead, contained spells, protective incantations, and detailed descriptions of spirits that could harm or heal. The Shams al-Marif, a 13th century Arabic grimoire, delved into the esoteric arts, offering guidance on summoning jinn and invoking celestial powers. The Picatrix, a translation of earlier Arabic astrological texts, combined astrology, magic, and philosophy to teach the manipulation of unseen forces. These texts were more than instruction manuals. They were repositories of dark knowledge, attempting to codify chaos, to turn fear into power, and to give humans a semblance of control over the invisible world. In every culture, those who held these books walked a precarious line between reverence, curiosity, and peril. The knowledge contained within these texts was both potent and dangerous, and so fear followed them wherever they traveled.
A book of names, a grimoire, or a manual of rituals held the key to summoning or binding forces that could overwhelm the unprepared. Clerics, scholars, and rulers feared that such knowledge could empower heretics, blasphemers, or ambitious individuals to challenge divine authority or societal order. Across Europe and the Middle East, books were censored, condemned, or burned. The act of destruction was both symbolic and practical. To eliminate the manual was to remove the possibility of its dark effects. Fires consumed manuscripts, libraries quarantined dangerous texts, and inquisitions sought to root out forbidden knowledge. Yet, the allure of the forbidden ensured that many works survived in secret, copied by hand, hidden under floors, in walls, or within private collections. The fear of these books was never merely academic, it was existential. Names written in ink could call forces from beyond, rituals could reshape reality, and the secrets of the unseen could slip from control into chaos. To possess such a text was to flirt with the very edges of human power and terror, a reminder that knowledge, in the realm of the infernal, is inseparable from risk. As humans sought to codify and control the infernal, they turned to symbols, the language of power that could bridge the visible and invisible. Among the most potent of these was the pentagram. Once a symbol of balance, protection, and harmony, the five-pointed star became associated with summoning, binding, and warding demons. Drawn with precision, inverted or upright, it encoded complex instructions, a map of power, a shield, and a key all at once. Planetary seals, too, were central to the magician's arsenal. Each planet was believed to govern specific aspects of the material and spiritual world, and the corresponding seal allowed the practitioner to call upon these cosmic forces or to constrain entities aligned with them. These seals were not mere decoration. They were considered tangible connections to the cosmic order, the conduits through which demonic and celestial power flowed. Artistic depictions in manuscripts, paintings, and talismans further reinforce the language of the infernal. Horned figures, hybrid beasts, winged monstrosities, and strange geometries conveyed both identity and function. To the magician, every curve, every line, every color carried meaning. The visual language of demons became a universal code, one that whispered of hierarchy, intent, and threat even before words were spoken.
Medieval manuscripts were treasure troves of this symbolic knowledge. Carefully illuminated pages, marginalia, and intricate diagrams revealed hidden layers of meaning. Instructions for summoning, binding, or protection, often disguised as abstract shapes or allegorical drawings. The act of reading a grimoire required both literacy and interpretation. One had to understand the symbolism, the timing, the correspondences, and the context, for a misstep could be disastrous. Hidden meanings were encoded in every stroke. A seemingly innocuous flourish might be a sigil for a demon's name, a planetary alignment, or a protection spell. Manuscripts often layered text with imagery, music, and geometry, creating a multi-dimensional map of the infernal. In this way, the manuscripts themselves became a ritual, a meditation on order and chaos, fear and control, mortal limitation, and supernatural power. The secrecy of these texts ensured that only the initiated could navigate their depths. Symbols were a key, a warning, and a mirror, a reflection of the unseen world, shaped by human imagination, fear, and the unyielding desire to dominate the darkness. Every page of these manuscripts whispered that knowledge of the infernal was never neutral. It was power, temptation, and peril
intertwined. Beyond manuscripts, rituals, and folklore, demons occupy the terrain of the human mind. Carl Jung called them archetypes, universal symbols embedded in the collective unconscious, the shared psychic landscape of humanity. Across cultures and centuries, the predator, the trickster, the corrupter, the wise spirit, these figures recur, not merely as stories, but as projections of internal fears, desires, and conflicts. In this sense, demons are mirrors of ourselves. The fallen angel reflects rebellion and hubris. The Night Stalker embodies vulnerability. The trickster reveals the tension between order and chaos. Shadow projection, the mechanism by which we externalize traits we deny or fear within ourselves, explains why malevolence is often imagined as an external being rather than an internal impulse. By personifying the dark, we can wrestle with it, attempt to understand it, and, in some ways, control it. Demonology, then, is as much psychology as it is mythology. The names, hierarchies, and rituals do more than catalog the unseen. They give shape to the human shadow, offering a map through the terrain of fear, morality, and imagination. Every demon ever named may be a reflection of the same internal truths that haunt every mind: universal, timeless, and terrifying.
Even today, in modern homes and cities lit by artificial light, humans still dream of possession, attack, and unseen forces. Sleep paralysis, nightmares, and night terrors are neurological echoes of ancient fears. When the body rests, but the mind remains alert to danger, our imaginations conjure what lurks in darkness. These experiences often take the form of demons, spirits, or malevolent presences, carrying forward archetypal motifs that have haunted humanity for millennia. Culturally, these dreams reinforce warnings and moral lessons encoded in folklore. To be attacked at night is to confront vulnerability, to face the shadow within and without. Our brains have evolved to give form to threats, to create narratives around the unknown, and to transform primal fear into story. In this way, even in the modern world, demons persist, not only as myths or religious figures, but as expressions of universal anxieties, psychological archetypes, and the human compulsion to externalize and negotiate with the unseen.
Demonology did not vanish with the rise of reason, science, and technology. It transformed. The grimoires and magical papyri of old have evolved into digital repositories, online communities, and tools that allow anyone to engage with the supernatural. Ghost hunting apps, spirit boards, and augmented reality tools enable modern seekers to track and record unseen presences, echoing the meticulous cataloging of ancient magicians. Online forums and social media groups serve as virtual grimoires, where enthusiasts share experiences, spells, and protective rituals. The collective fascination with demons is alive, thriving in comment threads, live streams, and downloadable texts. Whereas ancient magicians relied on secretive knowledge, modern demonologists have a vast, democratized network of information, blending folklore, ritual practice, and technological innovation. The human impulse remains unchanged: to name, to understand, to confront, and, if possible, to control the shadows that linger at the edge of perception. The shadows of the past have found new forms in modern culture. Films and television depict demons in every conceivable guise: the grotesque, the seductive, the morally complex. Video games allow players to summon, battle or become demons themselves, enacting myths and legends in interactive form. Music, from dark metal to experimental genres, evokes infernal imagery, tapping into the archetypes that have haunted humanity for millennia. Conspiracy culture also borrows from demonology, turning ancient fears into narratives of control, manipulation, and hidden influence. Satanic panics, secret societies, and alleged pacts with infernal forces mirror centuries-old concerns about corruption, ambition, and unseen powers. Modern demonology, then, is a cultural phenomenon, a blend of entertainment, belief, psychology, and community. The demons have changed shape, inhabiting screens, speakers, and stories, but their purpose remains the same: to confront humanity with its fears, desires, and the ever-present shadow of the unknown.
We have journeyed from the shadowed caves of ancient Mesopotamia, through the grimoires of medieval magicians, across deserts, forests, and the uncharted corners of the human mind. Demonology is more than a catalogue of monsters. It is a mirror held up to humanity itself. Every fear, every forbidden desire, every moral struggle we face is reflected in the demons we create and confront. They are the language of our shadows, the projections of what we dare not admit, the stories we whisper when the lights go out. But now it is your turn. Which shadows haunt your imagination? Which names, rituals, or night terrors send a shiver down your spine? Do you fear the predator, the corrupter, the trickster, or the knowledge that comes at a cost? Perhaps there is a figure, a story, a demon from this journey that lingers in your mind, watching from the corner of the room or hiding in the silence of a dream. Tell us, which chapter of demonology intrigues or terrifies you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and perhaps your legend will awaken in a future episode. And our descent is far from over. Next, we will open the gates of hell itself. We will meet the 72 spirits of Solomon, explore their ranks, and follow the exorcists who dared to confront them. Kings, dukes, marquises, and monstrous servants of the infernal, each with secrets, powers, and histories written in fire and blood. Prepare yourself. The shadows are gathering, the seals are tightening, and the whispers of the old grimoires are calling. Join us if you dare for the next step into darkness. Our exploration of demonology has only begun, and the shadows still have many names waiting to be spoken.